All right, just making sure that we're on. I want to thank everyone for being out here this evening. All right, so my lesson tonight is on charity. So all my references or my verses that I'm going to be referencing all come from the King James Version. So we're going to first define charity. I actually pulled this from the Webster 1828 dictionary. So the definition of charity in a general sense: love, benevolence, goodwill, that disproportion of heart which inclines men to think favorably of their fellow man and to do them good. In a theological sense, it includes supreme love to God and universal goodwill towards men. A more particular sense: love, kindness, affection, tenderness, springing from natural relations, as the charities of father, son, and brother. All right, so I did a search just to see how many times the word charity appeared in the Bible. And again, this is search within the King James Version. So there were 0 instances of charity in the Old Testament. There are 24 instances of charity mentioned in the New Testament. And I was shocked to find that Paul can be tied to 18 of those 24. 9 of which were to the Corinthians and 5 of which were to Timothy. And I actually did a breakdown to show how many instances were in each book. All the ones that are in red are related to Paul. All right, so how does Paul describe charity? So with it being almost wedding season, that this is often a section of verses that a lot of preachers will end up quoting somewhere within the wedding ceremony. So 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. So what I'm going to do is that passage that I just read, we're going to actually dive into it a little bit further and kind of break down all of these verses. So the first part is verse 4, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. So we're going to first look at suffereth long and is kind. When one suffereth long, a person will develop patience, and in turn, kindness. So we can see in Romans 5:5, Paul teaches us that tribulation worketh patience. And we look at envieth not. When a person envieth another, that person is displaying discontent or resentment because of another's success, advantages, or superiority. And we can see in James 3:16, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. Right. So when we look at vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, when someone is vaunt, they boast or make a vain display to one's own worth, attainments, or decorations. Can also be seen as inflated pride in self. So if we look at Romans 12:10, be kindly affectioned to one another with brotherly love, and honor preferring one another. From that, we should be placing everyone before ourselves. It's never self before anyone else. When we look at verse 5, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Doth not behave itself unseemingly. Unseemly can be defined as not fit or becoming, also known as indecent. In Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think of these things. When we see the part where it talks about seeketh not her own, we should not be selfish. We can see in Philippians 2:3, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Again, we should be putting everyone before ourselves. Not easily provoked. A person should be able to control their anger. We can see in Proverbs 16:32, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. So again, we see here that we shouldn't rush to be angry very quickly. Sometimes I do have a problem with this. I know self-examination that I can have a temper at times, and there are times where I catch myself where I can be very quick to anger. And those times that, I've had to humble myself quite a few times in my life, especially when it came to that. When things happen, I just have to bite my tongue, step back, take a moment, and then try looking at it in another light. And then oftentimes I can see other people's point of views or perspectives from that. So, thinketh no evil. Evil thoughts shape a person's heart. This can lead to people being two-faced or blatantly evil. We can see in Proverbs 23:7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. So what that means to me is that whatever's in here, that's the person. It's not on the outside what they might be displaying. God knows what's in our heart. We can sit there and try putting on a show towards others, but at the end of the day, it's what's in your heart that matters. All right. Rejoice not in iniquity, but rejoice in the truth. All right. So when we look at rejoice not in iniquity, iniquity can be synonymous with wickedness or unrighteousness. As Christians, we should be walking in the light or the truth, not in the darkness of wickedness. In 2 John 4, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. All right. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. So when we look at beareth all things, we are instructed to bear all things, such as in Romans 15:1. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves. We can also see in Galatians 6:2, bear ye one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So we as Christians, we are strong. We do have God to lean on. With having God to lean on, that puts us above a lot of those people who don't lean on God. As Christians, we should be that example. We should be trying to take on other people's burdens and try helping them out. Believeth all things, hopeth all things. By truly believing all things, we will never lose hope in our faith. In Hebrews 11:6, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. We can also see in Romans 5:5, and hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given unto us. We're also taught to endure all things. So again, if we endure all these things, we will be rewarded. And we can find in Matthew 10:22, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. We can also see in James 1:12, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to him that love him. In verse 8, we find charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Never faileth. Faileth means to cease, to perish, to be lost. Charity will never cease, unlike the other spiritual gifts mentioned in this verse. In conclusion, we found that charity suffereth long and is kind, envieth not, vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things, and never faileth. 1 Corinthians 13:13, and now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. If you are subject to the invitation, please come forward while we stand and sing.